When you're trying so hard to manifest what you want, why does it still feel like nothing's moving? Why does it feel like you're doing all the right things, the visualizing, the affirming, the believing, and yet life stays quiet? Why do your desires still feel far away, like they're sitting behind a locked glass you can see through, but not reach? It's not because you're broken. It's not because the universe isn't listening. It's because your energy, the deepest part of your presence, is still trying to control the outcome. And control, even when it's dressed in the costume of clarity or discipline, is a contraction. It's a frequency of fear wearing the mask of getting it right. It's interference. And interference fragments the signal. See, manifestation isn't about commanding reality into form. It's about becoming so vibrationally coherent with the version of you who already has it that life can't help but meet you there. But coherence only arises when there's openness, when there's flow, when the nervous system relaxes, when the inner grip unclenches. You don't manifest by doing more. You manifest by dissolving the parts of you that don't yet feel safe to receive. Think about this. Have you ever waited for a message from someone you love? That anxious refreshing, the scanning, the overanalyzing? That's the energy that blocks. Because underneath it all is a signal of lack, of not enoughness, of fear that what you want might slip away. And the universe doesn't respond to your words. It responds to your state. You can say, "I trust," with your mouth, but if your body is tight, your chest is held, your breath is shallow, the real signal is mistrust. The real frequency is waiting, wanting, worrying. And that's why the shift begins not in thought, but in embodiment. When you stop trying to manifest with force and start allowing with presence, something unexplainable starts to move. You begin to feel moments of relief without needing proof. You begin to release the obsession with timing. You begin to soften, to slow down, to savor, and in that energetic spaciousness, reality starts to mirror your inner state, not because you demanded it, but because you became it. Quantum manifestation works when you get out of the way, and the you that must get out of the way is the identity still hooked on needing, proving, performing. So I ask you gently, what if you stopped chasing the version of you who gets everything right and started relaxing into the version of you who is already worthy now? Because the truth is, coherence isn't created by thinking positively. It's created by aligning your nervous system with safety, with truth, with now. It's felt in your gut, in your breath, in the warm pulse behind your heart when you let yourself just be. And when your body feels safe to receive, you stop reaching. You start resonating. So maybe the reason things feel stuck isn't because the universe is ignoring you. Maybe it's because the signal you're emitting, beneath the surface, is still wired in waiting, still rooted in resistance, still holding the frequency of not yet. And maybe your only job isn't to figure out how to make it happen. Your only job is to become the space where it already is. You can feel it, can't you? That subtle tension in your chest when you think about what you want. That microscopic lean forward inside your body. That quiet gripping under the surface, as if your energy is reaching out, trying to grab reality and pull it closer. That's the invisible effort that blocks the current. That's the control dressed as hope. When we try to manifest from that place, that forward hungry frequency, we disconnect from the very timeline we're calling in, because manifestation doesn't respond to hunger. It responds to wholeness. Imagine trying to tune into a radio station, but your hand keeps shaking on the dial. That's what your nervous system does when you're pushing, even subtly. You distort the frequency with your urgency. You become noise instead of signal. But the moment you exhale, the moment you step back inside your own body, unclench your jaw, drop your shoulders, and let the breath deepen, something shifts. The grip loosens. The channel clears. Because that exhale, that softness, that trust in the unseen, that is coherence. It's not passive. It's powerful. Because it tells the quantum field, I'm no longer broadcasting lack. I am safe here. I am whole here. I am already the one who lives in the reality I desire. And that changes everything. We've been taught to chase, to strive, to hustle our way into alignment. But alignment isn't something you achieve through effort. It's something you remember through stillness. Your desires don't need to be forced into existence. They are already coded into your field, already living in a version of you that's breathing more slowly, more deeply, more truthfully. So when you get out of the way, when you step back from trying to force the bloom, the energy begins to reorganize. Here it's like a flower that opens in sunlight, not because it pushed, but because the environment supported its unfolding. You are the environment, Your body, your breath, your baseline emotion. That's the soil your manifestation grows in, and fear poisons the soil, doubt dries it out. But presence makes it fertile. You want to collapse timelines? Then collapse the space between who you think you need to become and who you already are. Because that gap, that imagined distance, is the illusion that keeps you reaching instead of receiving. Let yourself be still enough to feel the reality that's already arriving. Let yourself be soft enough to stop interfering. Let the old self, the one who needed to control everything, dissolve. There is no force in true manifestation, only frequency, and your most magnetic frequency. It's the one that flows through you when you stop trying to be magnetic and start being real, being open, being free, not by managing, by magnetizing, not with control, but with coherence. There's something sacred that happens when you finally stop running, not just physically, but vibrationally, when you stop running from the discomfort of not knowing, when you stop trying to bend time to your will, when you sit fully in the truth that you are not here to manipulate the how, only to become the now. This is where the true shift begins. Because when you stop resisting what is, you return to the only place where alignment lives, the present moment, not the future fantasy, not the mental rehearsal, right here, in the breath you're taking now. And the moment you land there, truly land, you activate a different signal, one that doesn't push or plead or persuade, one that doesn't oscillate between hope and fear, one that simply is. Have you ever noticed how the most powerful moments in life arrive when you least expect them? That text you stopped waiting for, that opportunity that flowed in the moment you gave up the grind, that meeting that changed everything. Not because you planned it, but because you were aligned with it. That's not coincidence, that's quantum response. The field responds to presence, not pressure, because pressure distorts the message. It sends out confusion, and confusion fragments your frequency. But presence, calm-rooted presence, is a pure tone, and reality mirrors purity. This is the paradox of quantum manifestation. The less you chase, the more you attract. The less you insist, the more reality aligns. The less you try to hold it all together, the more things fall perfectly into place. Not because you surrendered the dream, but because you surrendered the distortion. The dream doesn't need to be micromanaged. It needs to be magnetized. And that magnetism, that embodied coherence, is not found in figuring it out. It's found in remembering who you actually are beneath the mental noise. The version of you who already carries the frequency of the thing you're trying to attract. You don't have to become someone new. You only have to stop broadcasting the signal of separation. And that signal? It's hidden in the smallest of moments. The quick breath when you check your phone. The tight stomach when you think about your bank account. The tension in your jaw when you plan your future. These are the micro-interruptions to coherence. They're not wrong, they're just information, invitations, chances to return, to soften, to slow, to shift. Because every time you choose calm over control, embodiment over anxiety, trust over tension, you're recoding your field. You're becoming a safe place for your manifestation to land. So don't underestimate the power of the pause. The exhale, the unclenching. These are not small things. They are the gateway, the bridge between wanting and receiving. And once your system learns that it's safe to live in the frequency of having, not waiting, your timeline begins to collapse. Not through force, but through resonance. And maybe this is the part no one told you, that the version of you who already has what you want doesn't need it anymore, not because she doesn't care, but because she's already seated inside the experience. She's not craving it from the outside, she's emanating it from the inside. She doesn't live in pursuit, she lives in presence, and presence is power. We think manifestation means calling something in from the outside world, but what if it's actually the opposite? What if manifestation is your outer world reorganizing itself around the frequency you're already being? And what if every time you reach, wait, wish, you're telling the field, it's not here yet. I don't have it yet. I'm not it yet. And the quantum field, like a perfect mirror, reflects exactly that. This is the painful paradox that keeps so many of us looping. We try to feel worthy so that we can receive. We try to feel abundant so that money comes. We try to feel loved so that the relationship appears. But that "so that" reveals the gap, the condition, the subtle but potent signal of lack. And lack cannot produce wholeness, just as noise cannot produce harmony. That's why the shift isn't about saying the right thing, it's about becoming the right signal. And signal is not just emotion, it's embodiment. It's the way you breathe when you wake up in the morning. The way your body walks into a room, the rhythm of your thoughts when no one's watching, the vibration behind your stillness, the invisible field you carry with you that says, "This is who I am now, not someday, now." Because coherence doesn't wait for proof, it is the proof. And this is where we must be honest with ourselves, radical honesty, because so often we're performing trust while secretly projecting fear. We're repeating affirmations with tight shoulders and clenched jaws. We're visualizing outcomes while checking the clock, waiting for signs, scanning for confirmation, which is just another way of saying, "I don't believe it's real yet." And the field again responds with precision. "Not yet then." You can't fake coherence, but you can return to it. Moment by moment, breath by breath, you can re-enter the signal of the timeline you're calling in, and it doesn't come from effort. It comes from awareness, from regulation, from relaxing into your own knowing, not mentally but somatically. That's why nervous system work is manifestation work, because a dysregulated system sends out the vibration of chaos, urgency, and threat. Even if your mouth is saying, "I'm ready," the body always tells the truth and the universe listens to the body. So ask yourself, can your body feel safe having the thing you want? Can your system hold the love, the abundance, the expansion, without going into hypervigilance, self-sabotage, or shutdown? Because if not, the work isn't to try harder. The work is to regulate, to rewire, to open slowly. This is not weakness, this is quantum strength. True receivership is an energetic stability. It's a quiet certainty. It's the embodied exhale of someone who no longer negotiates with their worth. That's who you're becoming. Not someone who hopes life will change, someone who is the change, whose very presence bends timelines, not with force, but with frequency. And that's why getting out of the way doesn't mean giving up. It means stepping aside so your true self can lead. The self who doesn't need to control because she's already connected, who doesn't need to grasp because she's already grounded, who doesn't need to manifest because she is the manifestation. The embodied timeline begins now, with your breath, with your stance, with your signal. Are you emitting lack or wholeness? Are you radiating fear or safety? Are you trying to become, or finally allowing yourself to be? The shift happens here, in this very choice, in this very moment, when you stop trying to control the bloom and start becoming the sun. And this is the doorway most people never walk through, the doorway of surrender. Not the kind of surrender that gives up, but the kind that gives in, that melts into alignment with such full-body trust. The external no longer holds the power to shake your internal. Because here's the truth most of us avoid. Control is a trauma response. It's the mind trying to manage what the heart never felt safe to hold. It's the ego scanning for threats in a field that only mirrors your state. And when you lead with control, you tell the quantum, "I don't trust the signal. I need to micromanage reality to feel safe." But the quantum doesn't respond to control. It responds to coherence. And coherence requires surrender, not passive waiting, not bypassed patience, but the kind of surrender that anchors, that says, "I've already become it. I've already matched the signal. I don't need to force this into form because I am the form it's becoming." This is why you can't trick the field with positive words if your frequency is still frantic. You can't seduce the quantum with vision boards and mantras if your body is in a loop of fear. It's not about what you say. It's about what you are when you're not saying anything. That's why the nervous system is the bridge. Because when the body relaxes into safety, the signal clears. When the breath deepens, the vibration shifts. When the heart softens, the future rearranges. Let's get real. How often do you sit in silence, not needing anything to change? How often do you let yourself feel the desire fully, without turning it into a strategy? That's the edge most of us resist. We're addicted to action, trained to equate movement with progress. But in the quantum, movement without alignment is noise. It's distortion. The real power is in stillness that hums with certainty. So when I say get out of the way, I'm not asking you to be passive. I'm asking you to stop interfering, to stop fragmenting your own frequency with contradictory signals, to stop asking the universe for something while holding the vibration that it's not here yet. Because you don't receive by reaching, you receive by radiating. And radiance is a result of regulation, of being fully present with yourself, of becoming the person who no longer waits for permission from the outside world to feel what they've already chosen internally. You want to shift your timeline? Then shift the tone of your being. Speak less, feel more, push less, pulse more, chase less, choose more. Choose to become the one who walks like it's already done, who breathes like they're already held, who listens for guidance instead of forcing direction, who trusts that their embodiment is the command, not with effort, but with essence. This is not theoretical, it's physiological. You'll know you're aligned when your body no longer flinches in stillness, when your breath becomes slower, not tighter, when your mind quiets not because you forced it, but because your field finally matches your truth. You don't manifest when you manipulate. You manifest when you remember. Remember who you are beneath the noise, beneath the panic, beneath the pattern of proving. You are the field. You are the vibration. You are the timeline collapsing into form, not because you forced it, because you became the frequency that couldn't be denied any longer. That's the real work, and that's the real you. And it's here in this space between doing and being that you begin to notice the shift, not as fireworks, but as a quiet reordering. You start waking up without the pulse of urgency. You feel the texture of your days soften. Time slows, synchronicities increase, but not because you hunted them, because you're finally still enough to see them. That's when you realize manifestation was never about creating something outside of you. It was always about coming into vibrational alignment with what was already encoded within you. And when you remove the static of striving, that code activates. This is why stillness is so powerful, not because it stops motion, but because it removes resistance. Stillness doesn't mean inaction. It means no longer leaking energy into timelines you don't belong to, no longer feeding fear with your focus, no longer affirming lack through your nervous anticipation. Stillness is a portal. It is the womb of the quantum, and in that womb the version of you who has the thing already exists. She is not a fantasy, she is a frequency, and that frequency isn't accessed by wanting, it's accessed by being. So let yourself be her, not in imagination, in identity, not in thought, in tone, not in chase, in coherence. Let your breath match hers. Let your movements mirror her rhythm. Let your words carry her weight. Let your choices emerge from her truth. That's what embodiment means. Not pretending, becoming, fully, physically, energetically. Because the field doesn't respond to who you're trying to be. It responds to who you're being when no one's watching. When you're alone, when the desire still feels far and you choose to feel whole anyway. That's the moment of collapse. That's the signal shift. But here's the thing. Embodiment doesn't always feel electric. Sometimes it feels like grief, like letting go of the parts of you that needed struggle to feel worthy. Like shedding the identity built around the chase. Like saying goodbye to the version of you who survived on scarcity, vigilance, and performance. This is sacred. This is the real transformation. Because you're not just manifesting a thing, you're manifesting a self. And that self, the coherent one, doesn't resonate with desperation. She doesn't chase timelines. She chooses them. And in that choosing, the field responds. Not in theory, in physics. Because when all parts of you agree, the breath, the body, the belief, the external has no choice but to reflect that clarity. That's the observer effect in motion. That's the collapse of probability into form. But if you're still oscillating, still doubting, checking, controlling, the wave stays open. The field stays undecided, not because you're failing, but because your signal is still fragmented. And so we return again and again, not to more effort, but to more embodiment. Not to more doing, but to deeper coherence. We breathe slower. We stand taller. We listen inward. We stop trying to summon the future and start stabilizing the frequency of already. Because when your being says, it's done, the universe says, it is. So pause here. Feel this moment. Let it land, not by holding your breath, by deepening it. Let your signal be your certainty. Let your coherence be your command. Let your essence be enough, because it is. It always was. And this is where everything starts to shift. Not through an explosion, but through a subtle remembering, a return, a re-anchoring into the deepest knowing of all, that you were never meant to chase, you were meant to become, because manifestation in its truest form is not a transaction. It's a translation of vibration into visibility, of coherence into concrete, of energy into experience. And the universe doesn't respond to what you say you want. It responds to who you are when you stop trying. This is why trying harder often leads to burnout, not breakthroughs. Because trying, when it comes from lack, creates interference. Like trying to hear a melody through static. No matter how loud you play the music, the distortion hides the beauty. But when you stop trying and start trusting, when you stop doing and start tuning, the music comes through clearly. Life starts to harmonize with your signal, not because you demanded it, but because you allowed it. And that allowance, that is the most radical act of power, because to allow is to believe so deeply in your worthiness that you no longer try to earn it. You no longer seek proof. You no longer argue with reality. You simply become the kind of space where miracles feel at home. You walk through the world with a frequency that says, I am already enough. I am already held. I am already aligned. And that alignment, it changes your posture, your pace, your decisions. You stop settling for scraps because you're vibrating at the level of the feast. You stop chasing love because you are love. You stop trying to be magnetic because you are the magnet, not through effort, through essence. This is the quantum paradox. When you truly don't need it anymore, it arrives, because the need was never about the thing, it was about the signal. And when you heal the part of you that felt separate, unworthy, or unsafe, your signal stabilizes. That's what the universe responds to: stability, coherence, resonance. So let the old identity fall away, the one who hustled, performed, waited for signs. Let her dissolve. She was built in survival, not sovereignty. She was created in a time when you thought you had to become enough, but now you remember you already are. Let that remembering shape you. Let it move through your breath, your body, your being. Let yourself be so grounded in your knowing that even when nothing looks different, you feel different. And because you feel different, everything will begin to shift, not overnight, not on command, but with perfect quantum precision, because reality is listening. It always was. And now that you've gotten out of the way, now that you've stopped grasping and started glowing, it can finally respond. So stand here, in your coherence, in your calm, in your power. No more chasing, no more waiting, no more pretending. Just this: I am the signal, I am the receiver, I am the sun. And now that you've felt it, that subtle but seismic shift in your field, you start to realize that the true art of quantum manifestation is not about what you do. It's about who you no longer need to be. It's about shedding the static, releasing the resistance, untangling your identity from the frequency of force. Because every time you try to control the outcome, you step out of resonance. You exit the timeline that was already unfolding in your favor. You tell the universe, I don't trust this path. And the field, precise and neutral, recalibrates accordingly. This is why the most powerful move you can make is to do nothing from fear, to act only from alignment, to move not because you're afraid it won't happen, but because you're sure that it already has. That's what makes the difference. That's what collapses time. You begin to see how all those little anxious decisions, the extra text, the impulsive email, the rushed investment, the constant checking, were not signs of readiness. They were symptoms of mistrust. And trust is not a thought. It's a vibration. It's the steadiness in your breath when your mind tries to spiral. It's the way your heart stays open, even when life goes quiet. It's the signal you hold in your cells that says, I am safe in the space between. And that space between, it's sacred. It's the quantum void, the womb of manifestation, the place where the old has been released but the new has not yet arrived. And your job is not to escape it. Your job is to become it, still, open, receptive, radiant, because the void is not empty. It's potent, full of pure potential, full of every version of you that's ever been dreamed into existence. And the moment you resist it, the moment you grasp for form, you collapse into scarcity. You dim your frequency. You exit the field of miracles. But the moment you relax inside it, breathe inside it, own it as your birthplace, timelines begin to weave themselves around you. Not because you pushed, but because you allowed. Not because you demanded, but because you dissolved the version of you who needed to. You are not here to effort your way into alignment. You are here to remember you already were. Every time you sit in silence and soften instead of scroll, every time you choose presence over panic, every time you regulate your nervous system instead of running from it, you're recoding your reality. That's the real quantum shift. And suddenly, you don't feel like you're chasing your manifestations anymore. You feel like they've been chasing you all along, waiting for you to stop blocking the door, waiting for you to stop vibrating in not yet, waiting for you to stop performing your worth and start embodying it. So take this moment, this breath, and let it root you. Let it become the proof you don't need anymore. Let it become the reason you never needed to force it in the first place. Because now you know you don't manifest what you want. You manifest what you are, and what you are, and when you release the control, the grasping, the noise, is everything you've ever asked for. Not in the future, right now. And all that's left is to receive.